guys, NAMM 2019. I'm really excited to be here because I have a lot of people that we're going to talk to, amazing musicians. And there's no better way to start off this whole entire weekend with, other than Miss Ayla Tesler Mabe. Miss Ayla, how are you?
I am doing fantastic.
You
Thank
just flew in,
yeah,
right?
Just last night. I just walked through the door about 5 minutes ago, and now I'm here.
Wow. For those of you guys who might just be tuning in right now and have never heard of Ayla, I guarantee you probably have seen all of her stuff because you're all over Instagram, you're all over Facebook. Anytime I tune in to YouTube or somewhere, your guitar videos are there. And that's because she's an incredibly talented guitarist, one of the best I've seen right now. And you're so young. I mean, how old are you again?
17, turning 18 in March.
What was I doing when I was 17? I feel like I was trying to practice, but I still had not figured out my sound. And you already taking over the industry. Like, you are an insanely talented guitarist.
Well, thank you.
I don't say that lightly, but I don't want to take too much time. Ayla, I was curious if maybe you can walk us through a little bit. You're 17, so when did you start playing guitar?
I started when I was 12.
12 years old, so you've only been playing for about 5 years.
5 approaching 6.
5 approaching 6, wow, that's amazing. I'm curious, what did you start practicing early on? Because I think you were telling me that you started playing with some rock music, I believe.
Yeah.
But then you gravitated towards jazz. So when was it that you started practicing more like jazz or complicated things?
I think probably 2 years into my playing, I realized that all of the guitar players that I really looked up to and musicians in general had a jazz background, because I feel like if you understand jazz, you kind of understand music at a much deeper level. And I tried and wasn't particularly successful at the time, but it was sort of a gradual progression, and I kept trying to get into the music and listen to more jazz and all that. But it wasn't an immediate thing, but then probably after 3 years of really deliberate attempts to get into it, finally I was like, okay, I think I understand what it means.
How did you know that you understood? Was it because you understood like the chord changes? Did you understand like one day you just saw yourself soloing and you were able to do it naturally? Like,
well, I should clarify, I still don't know if I do understand, because it's such...
I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I think it's when I started understanding more of the theoretical aspects of it, but then how that tied into the mood, and I think that idea of how the songs are always trying to portray more than what you might think on the surface, that there's always something else going on, and I think that makes the music so much more interesting and enjoyable to listen to, and you really can sort of understand where the musician was coming from. Like, you know, for instance, with John Coltrane and A Love Supreme, and how he was playing a poem that he wrote about his love for God, and then all of a sudden the music makes so much more sense, and you feel it. Yeah, which is super interesting.
Well, I'm curious, now that you bring that up, do you feel like, was that a separate understanding? Because what you're describing to me is there is a sort of theoretical understanding of the chords and how they work, but then there's also an understanding that comes from understanding what the artist was trying to convey.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that helps musicians, or even you, to sort of do something great with what you do? Is that necessary?
Well, I think it definitely is, because I mean, if you just look at it in terms of the theory, you could break down most jazz standards into, oh, this is just a sequence of 2-5-1s. Look at all the progressions I'm playing through, and then it's easy to sort of fall back into those patterns and melodic ideas you've sort of practiced, and then it becomes sort of like a puzzle, and you're sort of just fitting what you know into what you think fits, which I think to an extent is a great thing to do, but then for it to be, I guess, great as opposed to just good, I don't know if there's a difference, then then I guess it's important. There might be. Then I guess it's important to have what you're playing mean something, because I think ultimately, and we've talked about this before, I think, music is always, I think, something that should mean something. And
Do you feel like as a guitarist, does that come naturally? I mean, you're also a songwriter and you're an artist yourself too. The whole having something behind, or having meaning behind what you're writing or what you're playing, is that something that comes naturally, do you say, to you, or is that something you had to learn? Basically what we were talking about by sort of listening to what others were doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the more I listened to the musicians and artists I love, the more I realized that there was more to it than just...
Like, other than John Coltrane, like, who do you think were some of the people that were key figures in your growth that allowed you to learn how to do that? Who would you say?
Well, I mean, in the beginning, definitely, because I was more in the rock sort of realm, Led Zeppelin, I think. I remember, I mean, Since I've Been Loving You in particular, that song I had this one summer between probably, I don't know, grade 8 and grade 9, where I listened to it every single night, at least 3 times, just because I loved it so much, and it would give me chills every time I listened to it, and I figured there was probably something more to it than, you know, just him playing certain notes from the minor pentatonic scale and a few like Dorian notes and whatever. But yeah, definitely that, and then obviously the Jimi Hendrix experience and all of those. I mean, I think when you look at the people that have been the most influential key figures in a particular realm of music, it's usually for that reason.
Yeah.
Because there's that added layer of artistry and expression there that, you know, I guess not every artist taps into to the same extent, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, why do you say, or why do you feel like a lot of artists have a hard time tapping into that? Because I do agree. I think that sometimes, I put myself in that category because I'm a drummer, and so I can get obsessed with a lot of techniques, which is fine. I think that improves us as musicians. But why do you think it's so hard for other musicians to sort of let themselves understand what the meaning is behind music and not just be so obsessed with technique or chords or scales or solos? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd imagine
there might
yeah,
not
it
even
might
be
be.
a
Yeah, it might
just
be a
just
different
like a random
answer.
opinion, right?
Yeah, it might be a different answer for every person. But I would imagine, because I'm also guilty of this. I think most musicians are. I mean, people are really competitive, and they want to be able to do what the other person is doing. You know, if you hear a musician doing something you can't do, you're probably thinking to yourself, "Oh, they're better because they can do that and I can't, and therefore I should try to learn that and then, you know, move on to the next technique," which obviously I think is a very important part of being a musician, you know, and the technical side of it is always really important. But I think it's so easy to get completely caught up in that to the point where maybe you're thinking about that more than what music really fundamentally is about, or at least what I think it's about. I might be wrong, but I mean, what it is to me.
I bring it up because you are obviously succeeding a lot right now, and I think it's very clear that your career is going to shoot even higher, you know, as the years progress, because your experience, the way you approach guitar, the way you approach music, it sounds like you've been playing for 20 years, and that's why I'm so impressed, because you're not just playing fast. You know, I think a lot of us think that playing fast, myself, like as a drummer, you think of it as that's experience right there. But when you really hear the players that have been playing for over a decade, there's this sort of experience that you can hear that. You can hear that control, you can hear that intensity, but you can also hear the intent behind what they play.
Right, exactly.
And you seem to have learned that almost instantly. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you.
And obviously, I think you've allowed yourself to be open to a lot of experiences. Would you say that a lot of it had to do with having a supportive family as well? Like having
100%.
a supportive group of peers?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I have like the most supportive parents in the world that never pushed me in any direction. Yeah, they're great. They're the best.
Yes.
Yeah, and just an amazing team. People like Sammy Gowie standing right over there. Hi, Sammy.
Yeah. It takes a good team to make good artistry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I mean, just amazing mentors who, from the onset, sort of gave me the opportunity to explore what music was to me, but then also they already had that understanding of, you know, what music really truly at its essence and core I think is supposed to be. And I know supposed to be is obviously a very, you know, sort of confining term in a sense, because obviously, I mean, no one really knows what it's supposed to be. I mean, exactly.
Subjective.
Yeah, it's subjective. That's what
And I think you've mastered what it's supposed to be for you. And
right,
I think when I see you play live, and also your videos too, but primarily when I see you play live, I think it shows a lot. And that's one of the things that I'm impressed by, is that you know how to be your own artist and your own guitarist, but when you're also in a unit, like in the band that you're in, Calpurnia, you know how to enhance that experience too.
Well, thank you.
And part of me wonders if that also plays into the knowledge that you've gained on your own. You know, like does being able to understand the music and the intent, does that help you bring what you bring to the table with Calpurnia?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would imagine so, because obviously you hear musicians sometimes that are playing and it's amazing what they're playing, but then when you look at the context of the music and what the other musicians are doing, maybe it doesn't fit the mood as well, and that you almost get the sense that maybe they're playing, for instance, really technically just for, you know, technicality's sake, and it's not really fitting with the mood or the atmosphere, energy, or emotion of the piece. But Yeah, I think.
Not with you though.
I mean, I always try my best. I mean, if I just have to play one note over and over again and that's what fits, I think that is what I would love to do. Just because I mean,
that's what the professionals do. That's exactly what the professionals do, and I think that's why you're succeeding at what you're doing. And playing with a great band, with all the great musicians at Calpurnia. I think we might actually have some questions actually.
Yeah, I had a question from a caffeine user. They wanted to know, what do you like better, singing or playing guitar?
Ooh. Excellent question. That is, I know this is a very, I don't want to say bad answer because that's not really answering the question, but I don't know if I could choose because there's such different worlds, and I don't think I'd ever want to choose just one.
Yeah.
That being said, it's interesting because obviously singing is a much more innate and personal thing because, you know, it's coming from your own body. But I almost feel more able to express myself on the guitar at the moment, which is interesting. But I think maybe it's just because I've spent more time with
So you feel like guitar is helping your growth right now? But at some point, maybe singing might become that, where you might be able to grow.
I mean, I've in the past year or so, I think I've seen a lot of growth in, you know, being able to sing what I sort of hear in my head. Because I guess I've always heard what I want to be able to do, but then it's just a matter of figuring out the way to actually express that. You know, whether it be through the guitar, through singing, or whatever it is. But I love both, and I think, I mean, if you listen, I mean, if you listen to someone like Jimi Hendrix, it's sort of that amazing interplay between his guitar and his vocals and all of that. That really was one of the things that made him such an incredible artist. And I mean, I'd love to be able to just stand on, and I mean, I am doing this now, but I mean, to a greater extent, I'd love to just be able to stand on stage and have both my voice and my guitar be this sort of conduit of expression.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always trying to do.
You know, it reminds me a lot of, I mean, it's interesting. I think he's like the classic example, but like John Mayer, for example.
Yeah.
Right? I think we all as musicians idolize what John Mayer does, and I think it's because him alongside with like, say, someone like Prince or something, who were like incredible musicians, they just had a great way of using their voice to make great artistry.
Absolutely.
And they found a great way to bridge that, you know. And it's not as easy as it sounds, you know, just to pick up a guitar. Even myself, me picking up some drumsticks and singing a song, like it's really hard to be able to do both equally well.
Absolutely.
And so for you, do you feel like that's somewhere in your future, like being your own, like maybe just like singer-songwriter, or do you see yourself being maybe both, like part of a great band like you're part of right now, which is, Calpurnia is amazing, by the way, guys, and then maybe doing your own solo stuff?
You know what, I would love to do both. I mean, ideally, I would love to...
I mean, you're kind of already doing it right now,
I mean,
you know?
maybe, I guess so. But yeah, I would love to be able to just put out as much good music as I can. I guess. I mean, I mean, obviously that's sort of the dream for every musician, but that's definitely something I'd love to do. And yeah, and I have another group too, Ludic, which is a trio. Yeah, which is a completely different kind of music. And
what do you guys play? Is it like funk jazz?
It's like sort of like funk jazz soul sort of stuff. But I love so many different kinds of music, and I would hate to...
I'm curious, what are some of the random styles that you like? Like obviously I know you play jazz, you play a lot of pop, play a lot of rock. Is there like a random style that a lot of people don't know that you like? That it's just like for example, I'll tell you one of my random ones. I like Gregorian chant. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just love the notes that they use, especially when they like the five guys are singing in unison and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's something random. Like I'm curious for you.
Well, I've grown up listening to classical music, which I guess some people maybe would not know. But also, lately I've been listening to a lot of Afro-Cuban sort of stuff, which is really fun, and Afrobeat music. And it's amazing. They play over one chord change for like 20 minutes. And they're just so in the pocket, and just the groove is incredible.
Who are you listening to, if I can ask?
Just, I mean, I'm still on the surface, but like Fela Kuti and all of that, that music is just amazing.
And that's crazy because I'm Guatemalan, but my parents loved like salsa, all the Cuban stuff, like even like some merengue and everything you can think of from like the Caribbean. And I honestly contribute a lot of my success as a drummer to the Afro-Cuban stuff because it's like you were saying, they can vamp over the same thing for 20 minutes. I mean, I think you can say the same thing for jazz too, but there's just this creativity that goes behind that. Do you feel like that's helping you grow a little bit as a musician?
I think so, because I mean, it's the same with funk too, where it's just all about the groove and the atmosphere of the music as opposed to, I mean, it's like the sum is greater than, I don't know, you know, it's like the whole piece is more than just each individual person. They're all contributing. And I was going to try to use that expression, but I totally forgot it. And I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's
you know
just helping you
say.
become a better musician. So I'm curious for you. So in this next year, then, so you guys, you're playing with Calpurnia, and you're also playing with your band. What does your year look like? Are you busy touring right now? Are you going to be mostly songwriting? Are you mostly going to be focusing on your own stuff? Like, I'm curious, what is your? Do you even know? You're just playing it by ear.
I have a rough idea. I mean, always playing it by ear. Pun probably intended, I guess. Yeah.
Just with the guitar to the side. I love it.
Yeah, but I think this is going to be a songwriting focused year.
Good.
And with both of my groups, I hope to put out an album or at least more music. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of touring going on
Like
in
in
the
between?
future. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the goal is always just to put out as much music as possible. And I mean, performing is incredible and I love it. But for me, I think the process of writing a song and recording it and finally hearing it in its final stages when it is able to be listened to by other people, I think that to me is the most incredible part.
Does that
and I
ever
love
scare
that.
you though? I'm curious. Because,
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, for me, it's almost like drawing a picture where, because I'm an artist too. So sometimes you start with just lines, and then it just looks like scribbles for a while, maybe some shading, and then at the end you look at it, this is like, wow, this is an amazing thing. It took forever.
Right.
But I know for a fact, for me, I get very self-conscious sometimes with releasing like songs.
Well, it's so
that I write.
vulnerable, right?
Exactly, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't faze you at all.
I would say there's a part of me that's worried, but then also I'm usually so sure that I love it myself that it makes it easier. And I mean, obviously, not everyone is going to love the music you put out, but I think most importantly, if you love it. And it's interesting, Billie Aylish, which is not a name I guess people would maybe think I'd be referencing, but she is an artist about my age right now who's putting out music and is
Incredible music.
yeah,
mind you.
incredible. I
It's
mean,
insane.
it's probably some of the most artistic and genuine and soulful music coming out right now.
I would
and
say very
she's
mature music
oh,
too.
absolutely.
For
And
someone like
she's
Billie
only
Eilish.
my age, but she said something, and I'm paraphrasing, but along the lines of, you know, if everyone were to disappear tomorrow and I was left with only myself and what I've created, I want to be left with what I, you know, stuff that I'm proud of. So music that I'm genuinely invested in and proud of, and I know that is a true reflection of my artistic experience and expression. And I think that's so true. I mean, you should always be trying to put out music that truly is important to you as a person. And if you like it, I think ultimately that's step one.
So can I ask you for like your songs, like what's important to you to convey in your songs? And obviously I understand with artistry, sometimes you don't even know what to write until it comes out of you.
Right.
But I'm curious if you have like an overall idea of what's important. Maybe you want to always convey positivity. I know that a lot of my friends love to talk about love. Some of them, you know, talk about different other things. I'm curious for you, like what's important, or if you even know what's important for your music.
Well, it's hard to say because I think I'm still relatively early on and
You're growing into it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's not so much a particular subject matter that is always apparent in the music, but I think honesty is really important in all music, that whether it's an upbeat positive song or if it's a love song or a more introspective sort of song, I think as long as it's an honest song, that's what's important.
Is it hard to write like again, it's coming from someone who's not a songwriter. I'm curious for you, like, is it hard to write about specific topics versus other topics?
I'd imagine, yeah. I mean, obviously, again, that's probably different for each person, but I think it's almost more difficult, and from a lot of songwriters I've talked to, it seems very difficult sometimes to write about what is truly important to you, just because that's so vulnerable. And I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to pour your heart and yourself into a song. And you know, maybe there's someone out there who actually thinks that it's a lot easier to do that, because I mean, in a way,
maybe
it would make sense,
built
right?
for that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it is drawing on your own personal experience, and then you can be sure that it's going to be really honest and
that's crazy. And I'm glad that you are able to notice that with all the music that you write, and you're very comfortable with being vulnerable and releasing all that. One of the things that I'm really happy about what you're doing, and I think we even talked about this before in one of the interviews that we did, is that I think you're sort of helping to pave the way in this new evolutionary state that we're in the music industry. And I think we talked about how both you and I have seen a lot more women
Yeah.
being interested
Absolutely.
in playing things that in the past the industry hadn't had much interest in.
Right.
And I'm primarily focusing on like guitars for right now. There's a
Right.
lot of other things, but like I remember growing up, I didn't see a lot of girls interested in guitars. And
Right.
maybe that was just my environment, but I didn't see that. And then now, with the rise of Instagram and Facebook, with what you're doing with other women like Emily Browning, who we were talking about, Billie
Yeah.
Eilish, like they're all sort of promoting this new wave of women who are
Yeah.
incredible at guitar, who have always been incredible, by the
Yeah.
way. But I think it's finally becoming to start.
Rising to the surface a little
Exactly,
more.
exactly.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if you feel like social media has had a part in that. Because
Yeah.
I know I first got to know you through the social media. Now,
Right.
part of me wonders if you feel like social media, in the good sense, has helped make that acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because I think, and we talked about this before, it's a little bit terrifying.
I mean, it's a lot of different things, right?
Yeah,
But
of course. But I mean, it's terrifying when you want to do something, but then you don't really see a lot of role models who are like you. Maybe in terms of gender, or it could be any other number of things. But I think the more young girls see other women, you know, picking up an instrument and not in any way relying on their gender as sort of part of their artistic identity,
Absolutely.
but just the fact that they happen to be women, but they also happen to be incredible musicians. I
Yeah.
think the more they'll see that it really is just a matter of working hard and being genuinely passionate about what you do, and that, I mean, I have super small fingers. Like, look at how small my hands are.
Wow, look at
right?
that. I mean,
But
I have gigantic hands, though,
yeah,
so it's like a
but
weird
then
comparison.
With all of the practicing that I've done and how hard I work,
You found your own way. You
yeah,
found
and
your
it's
own
I've
way.
never really experienced any setbacks because of anything other than the fact that it's hard to play an instrument. And that's something that's universal, and it affects anyone, no matter what their gender, religion, race, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just a fact that everyone experiences struggle, and that the only way to persevere through that is working harder than everyone else around you, I guess.
Absolutely. Ayla, you're amazing to talk to, and I'm so happy for you because
Thank
you're
you.
just having so much success. I really hope that you enjoy the 2019's NAMM show because it's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day to
Thank
speak
you.
to me.
This
Absolutely.
is an amazing way to start the show. I mean, I walked through the door just now, and now I'm here, and this is amazing. I'm
So it's a great way to
excited.
start. So thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed NAMM
Thank you.
2019. Ayla Tesler Mabe. I got the name
Yeah.
right this time. She's incredible. She's
Thank you.
everywhere. Amazing guitarist. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.